Yesterday on the show, Stuart Copeland of The Police. Hope you enjoyed that. Just put up a bunch of video clips of that. You can find that on social media. It's already on X and
for your listening pleasure.
Serious XM Faction Talk gives you hard and heavy
Conversation.
My God, how lucky can I be?
This is Trunk Nation
It's ridiculous, but it's awesome.
with Eddie
The
Trunk.
Grand Trunk Railroad of real music lovers.
what's happening, everybody? Wednesday, 20th day of May, 2026. It is noon here in Vegas. It is 3 o'clock Eastern time, and we are ready to go with another action-packed, super busy edition of Trunk Nation today. I do not know if we are going to have time for phone calls today. We'll see. I always try to get some in when I can, where I can, but today we've got a double dip. We've got two guests, maybe some time. We'll see. Maybe we'll get to some after our second interview. I'm not sure, but have that number handy. It is 844-686-5863 as usual. And we are good to go here for a midweek edition of the show, live every day, talking rock with you, 3 to 5 Eastern, noon to 2 Pacific, and anytime using the Sirius XM app. Always busy, always a lot going on. And today is no exception. Two guests joining us shortly will be Glen Matlock, the original bass player from the Sex Pistols. There is a documentary out called I Was a Teenage Sex Pistol. Glen will join us to talk about that. The impact of the Pistols, punk, the whole thing, just a whole overview of this extraordinary story of a band that made only one album, but a incredibly impactful album. And Glen was a big part of the writing and some of the playing on that stuff. And he will join us to tell us his story coming up in a bit. And then also today, joining us live, a fairly regular guest on the show and one of my favorite people, and that is an original member of Van Halen. The one and only Michael Anthony returns to the program today. He will join us live at 4 o'clock Eastern, and we'll get caught up with Michael. And you know what? If we might be able to grab some calls for Michael if you want to say hello to him. I don't have a big agenda with him today. He's calling to promote a charity event. So we'll get a little catch up. I don't know how long we'll go, but he's always great. He's always willing to talk about anything. And maybe we'll give you guys an opportunity to get on the air with him if you'd like. Again, that'll be at 4 Eastern live in the show today. So double dip on interviews today. Yesterday on the show, Stuart Copeland of The Police. Hope you enjoyed that. Just put up a bunch of video clips of that. You can find that on social media. It's already on X and Instagram for me and for the show accounts. And also, I'm sure Joel's putting that stuff up on the newly launched Trunk Nation SXM TikTok as well. So a lot of ways to see Stuart Copeland, who was a ball of energy yesterday, walking around his studio and giving us some insights and some stories on what he's been up to and a little bit on the Police and also on these upcoming speaking shows that he has, which he was on to promote. So it was great to have him as a first-time guest on the show yesterday. And our final, well, actually that's not true because another guest just came in on Friday, but that's just going to be a brief hit. Tomorrow in studio, Alice Cooper. So that's going to be awesome. He will be in with us the second hour of the show tomorrow. We'll take calls for Alice. We'll do news, calls, etc. Alice Cooper live with me tomorrow. And then on Friday, for the most part, it is a free-for-all Friday heading into the holiday weekend. However, Richie Kotzen hit me up. You know how I feel about Richie. He is releasing a brand new single on Friday. And he wants to premiere it on the show and wants to come on for a minute and tell us about it. So I figured a good way to head into the holiday weekend and the long weekend with a song, a brand new song from an incredible talent and a few minutes with him telling us about the song. So Friday will be free for all, no doubt. Almost the entire show will be you and calls, but we're going to close it out with something special, heading into Memorial Weekend with a brief conversation with Richie Kotzen, and then ending the show with his new song, which is called Catch a Star, and is coming out that day. So that is how an incredibly busy week continues as we are at the midweek point. And again, 2 interviews today. Let me get right to some stuff here real quickly, because then we've got to get to Glenn, and then we've got to get to Michael, and that's how we're going to roll today on this Wednesday edition of Trunk Nation. So last night, I did go to the Planet Hollywood Theater. The Youngblood Warning show hit Vegas last night. What looked to be a pretty much sold-out show at the Planet Hollywood Theater. And I went, let me just be clear on this so nobody reads this the wrong way. I went specifically last night to see The Warning. I did not see all of Youngblood's set. I did see the first 5 songs. I could not stay through that whole set because I had some other stuff to do. And I knew that the whole time. But the reason why I say I went specifically to see The Warning, and I was not worried about not seeing the entire Youngblood set, is because I will see Youngblood twice this weekend in LA. The show at the Greek, which is on Friday, and on that show, I don't think I'm going to be able to make seeing The Warning. I'm not sure I'm going to try because of my schedule. So I wanted to make sure I saw The Warning. I knew I couldn't see all of Youngblood last night, so that's why last night was really more about seeing The Warning for me, who I've been wanting to see live forever. And then this weekend, I will definitely see Youngblood in a full set and a semi-private deal on Saturday. So I have a lot to tell you about when we're back live on the air after the holiday on Tuesday of next week, as far as Youngblood is concerned. But last night, a band that's come up a lot on the show, we've had them on the show. I finally got a chance to see The Warning live. I had been wanting to. I tried when I hosted Rocklahoma. I tried, but unfortunately, they got rained out at that performance, so I never ended up seeing them play. But I did last night. They did not disappoint. They were phenomenal. They really were. Great band. Sounded great. The 3 sisters up there kicking ass, singing, playing great. They played 2 or 3 new songs from their coming new album. I don't know what else to say beyond the fact that I really enjoyed it. They were, I think they're even heavier and edgier, and I captured it more. I got it more by seeing them live. I really did. So I've really enjoyed seeing them. It was a great set. Crowd seemed into them. Make no mistake, there were people there to see The Warning, but this tour is totally Youngblood's tour. He is the clear-cut headliner. He is drawing an incredible amount of people. And what's really interesting about what his audience is, and I was talking to Youngblood's manager, who I met last night, The Warning's manager, Rudy, about this, who watched The Warning with me. We sat and watched it together. Youngblood's demographic, the fan base coming out to see him, is unbelievable. It is all over the map. It is everything from people who maybe are 15 years old to people who are 75 years old. It is probably 65% women to 35% men of all age groups. I saw young people, middle-aged people, old people. It was crazy. I've never seen a demographic like that at a show. And when you think about it, there's a lot of different connect points here. The way he presents all of his social media stuff, which he's very prominent about pushing out, his story, which has gotten out there, his previous music output, and then you factor in touching on the older demographic by teaming up with Joe Perry and Steven Tyler, by covering a Black Sabbath song. So that's where the older demographic comes in. You've got goth looking people. You've got punk pop looking people. It is a crazy hodgepodge of an audience. And the Warning had some people there. I saw some people with like Mexican flags and stuff, and certainly were into them as well. So it is a really good double bill. It definitely works as a package for those two bands. Warning did 45 minutes roughly. Youngblood, again, I stayed for the first 5 songs. He opens with Hello Heaven, Hello, which is like a 10-minute song. And the 5th song in the set was the Aerosmith collaboration, My Only Angel, and I left after that. But again, I didn't leave for any other reason except for I had somewhere else I had to be, and I am completely seeing a full show on the weekend. 2. So I did not need to, I wasn't worried about missing the rest of the show. He has a big production, screens, images before he comes out. And the guy is shot out of a cannon in terms of energy. I have never seen anything like that. I mean, it is full on 110% movement, motion, dancing, shaking, pointing, insane. I got to tell you, and I know he's a much younger guy than me. He's 28 years old, and obviously he's in great physical shape. But I got to tell you, watching him last night, I was like, I would really be worried because he's jumping and, he's in boots and leather pants. He leaves his shirt on for about 30 seconds and, goes right into that mode. Very Mick Jagger meets Billy Idol in his stage presence. But I'm sitting there saying to myself, my God, I hope he doesn't pull a muscle or twist an ankle or blow an ACL. Again, I know he's a younger guy, but he did not stop moving for I was with Brian Slagle. We were like, man, if he tweaks something, shows off, because he can't not move. He's like just nonstop motion. So that was pretty interesting. I've not seen anybody perform like that in a long time, but he's got an audience. Again, wherever you land on that guy, wherever you land on the Warning, it is good for rock music because it is bringing a big umbrella of people under it to see rock music. And in both cases, the Warning and Youngblood, younger acts bringing a wide variety of people of different ages, different, men and women, and, hearing rock. He plays War Pigs by Sabbath over the PA before he comes out. So that is a good thing. I'll do much more on him after this weekend when I see a full set. But the Warning were great. New album is coming. 3 songs. They played 3 new songs last night in the set. And thank you to their manager, Rudy, who I got to meet. And thank you to our friend Kraus, who helped orchestrate that as well. So that's that. Again, more on that when I have time, and more after the weekend when I see a full Youngblood performance. Real quickly, some other news before we get to Glenn. We've talked a lot about another young band, Greta Van Fleet, who it looked like had broken up, but apparently did not. They put on social media that they're back after a day or two of saying thank you, goodbye. So a lot of misdirection from them using social media to create buzz. Apparently, Greta Van Fleet, which I had heard this, had recorded a new album. I'm sure there's an announcement of that any minute, any day. And now they have announced what is known in the industry as an underplay, when a big band plays a very small place. And that'll be happening for them in New York City 1 week from today, May 27th, when they play the Bowery Ballroom, which is where I saw Motley Crue in their underplay last time they were on the show, which is probably a couple years ago at this point. The tickets for this, if you happen to be in the New York City area, are going to be available on the 26th, next Tuesday, only in person, only at the Bowery Ballroom box office. So that's a way that they control who gets the tickets and control scalping and all of that. So Greta, very much still a band, very much still in action. Night Ranger, another best of record, this one with some remixes and also compiling more of their more recent tracks in addition to older tracks. This album announced for August 28th. Bruce Dickinson with a new video for the track Tears of the Dragon. Bruce, if you remember when he was on the show with us recently, talked about this a little bit. They put out a brand new reissue of the Balls to Picasso album called More Balls to Picasso, which was a total remix redo of that album, and now a new video from that album for the track Tears of the Dragon, which was shot in Brazil. And in related Iron Maiden news, and I'm telling you, I saw this one coming because Maiden has such a weird confliction and thing against the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that I've talked about. It's obvious they do not even want to talk about it. They don't want to be asked about it. They don't want it brought up. Now they're being inducted and they are clearly not going, as they've said. Well, Dennis Stratton, who I've talked about quite a bit, who is a guy that was one of two guitar players and only appeared on the first Maiden album, who the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has included in the induction. He's in a bit of a spot here. He did an interview with something called Paul Flicks on YouTube. And, basically, poor Dennis, who again played half the guitars on one record, but finds himself being included in this. And really, let's be honest, has not had any sort of accolades or recognition of any real kind in 40 years, 45 years. Really wants to come and be a part of this, but he basically did an interview alluding to the fact that Maiden doesn't even want any of the past members going. So he's like, I have to kind of abide by what I'm paraphrasing here, but you can read it online. It's on Blabbermouth. He's saying, I really would like to go, but they don't want any. It's just crazy. So he's saying, it'd be maybe nice if me and Blaze and Nico showed up, but I don't know if they're going to show up. It's, as I said the whole time, Maiden wants nothing to do with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And now that they are in, conveniently, they're out of the country. They're in Australia. So they ain't going to be there. They're not playing. We know that. But you got three guys being inducted that are members, were members of the band at one point, who I guess want to go, and they're not sure if they should go. And if they should go, should they say something that they should not be on stage? It's like, I can't even imagine what's going on behind the scenes. But read that story if you want. You'll get a little glimpse into it. I don't know how it's all going to unfold, but to me, it sounds like Maiden doesn't even want anyone, even the members that are being inducted but aren't in the band anymore, who are available to go, to be there or to show up or to do something on stage representing them when they can't be there to represent themselves. So it's a very, very, very interesting situation going on there. Rachel Bolan with a new track, Memory, released from his upcoming solo album. 3 tracks out from that now. The album is not out until June 12th. I mentioned yesterday there's this Billy Joel biopic told from the viewpoint of his original manager. To me, it sounded like something Billy Joel would not be behind and did not want out. And today, confirmation of that, because Billy Joel did put out a statement saying, nope, he wants nothing to do with it. The film does not have the rights to use his music or his life story. and it sounds like he's going to do everything in his power to block this biopic from coming out. We'll see how that all goes, but it was reported in Variety. Jason Bonham added a few more shows to the Led Zeppelin evening. The additional dates start in Idaho August 13th, run through Iowa September 6th. Kansas also announcing additional dates to their tour. They've got shows with Deep Purple. They've got shows with 38 Special. And now they've got another run of headline shows running September 29 through November for Kansas. Joel, anything you have that you want to jump in on?
Just we also got a new single from Yes today, and a music video from Foo Fighters for their new single as well.
All right, so we got a big umbrella of rock here ourselves, covering all different aspects of it. And again, it's just an extraordinarily busy week. So we're moving as quick as we can to get everybody in and everything in and touch on as much as we can. And we are going to get to our guests. So let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll be joined by Glen Matlock of the Sex Pistols. After we speak to Glenn, we're going to speak with Michael Anthony, of course, of Van Halen. So we've got a busy, busy Wednesday. We'll be right back with Glenn after this on Trunk Nation, Faction Talk 103, or the SiriusXM app.
Back to our deep dive on all things rock.
For rock and roll, let's keep it live.
Trunk Nation.
At the end of the day, this thing is a live event.
With Eddie Trunk.
I learned all my good stuff from him.
On SiriusXM's Faction Talk. Turn it up.
Okay, we're back on a very busy show on this Wednesday here on Trunk Nation, talking rock with you on Faction Talk 103 or the SiriusXM app anytime you'd like, live or on demand. It's Eddie Trunk. We have Michael Anthony of Van Halen coming up with us a little bit later on in the show, but it's kind of two bass players here today because Michael's coming on, and we have another legendary bass player here right now who is the subject of a new documentary which is out called I Was a Teenage Sex Pistol. It is great to welcome to the show for the first time, Glen Matlock. Glenn, how are you? Good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Not so bad. I'm doing all right. Nice. Thanks for having us on. Yeah. I'm doing okay.
I had a chance to watch the documentary. I'm a huge fan of music documentaries in particular, and I thought it was fantastic. Tell me the story about putting this together, because you were very involved in it. You were a producer on it. I thought it was great that it told the story of the band, but it also told your personal story. So when did the genesis of this come about?
Well, it's actually based on a book that I wrote a long time ago. I think in 1990. I wrote it. I must admit at the time I did have a bit of a chip on my shoulder and thought I'd been passed over in musical history a little bit, and I found it very cathartic to write it. But when I finished writing it, I kind of thought, this might make a documentary one day, and I wasn't in any mad rush to do it. But over the course of years, you speak to people and they kind of run with it, and then they don't, and then it's just lots of things in life are being, especially being in the Sex Pistols, was being in the right place at the right time. And a couple of years back, I met a guy called Nick Mead, who's one of the co-producers and directors, and he introduced me to Andre Relis, and they wanted to make it. So that's what we did. I made loads of suggestions of people who might kind of big me up a little bit in the movie. You don't want all your arch enemies in the movie. And it slowly came together. And it actually had a screening in England just before Christmas, been on the TV there. The powers that be decided it's coming out imminently in America. We did actually have a premiere in New York, and I've been over doing a Clem Burke sort of tribute couple of gigs that Jesse Malin organised. And it would have been good if I could have gone on to be at my premiere of my movie. It didn't work that way, and I had to come back because we started gigging in Europe with the Pistols already, and I had to come back for rehearsals. So there you go. So we're here. It's coming out there soon. I'm pleased with it. I'm glad you picked up on it. I've had nothing but good reports. Maybe the people who don't like it don't say nothing, but well, how do you know? But yeah,
well, I don't think there's anything in it to not like. It's a tremendous story, and I do think it's great because, again, to me it served two purposes. I mean, I'm certainly aware of the Pistols and you and the impact of the Pistols, but it created more of a story about the whole origins of it, and also for you in particular, your role in the band in terms of writing, playing, how you were let go from the band and then ended up, going back in and working with Sid. People had looked at this divide between you and Sid coming into the band, and then you ended up becoming friends and actually collaborating together. I mean, it was all, for somebody who was more of a casual fan, really interesting.
We only did one gig, right? And I gave him the money from the gig, and I think because he turned up in New York with a good few $1,000s in his pocket, I think that's one of the reasons he never came back. So there you go. But we were neighbours in London. We knew the same people. We were sitting in a pub one night, and Sid said we're supposed to be enemies, and we're sitting there. And he said, "What can we do about it? Do we need to do anything about it?" I said, "Mate, we could do a gig." And we decided on Monday to do a gig. And we played on a Friday night. Then we learned a few songs. We didn't even have that many songs. We ended up doing the set 3 times because we didn't have enough material. But at that gig, loads of people came. The people from Thin Lizzy, Mark Bolan's supposed to have been there. And I met the guys from Blondie. They had a night off. They was in London. And that's when I first met Clem Burke and Debbie and Chris Stein and the other guys who were the original people in the band. And I kept in touch with Clem over the years and done loads of projects with him, sessions and airbrain things. And about 3 years ago, he called me up and the phone rang, and I was making a risotto at home. I don't know if you cook, but when it's just about the right point, you got to serve it up, and the phone went. And I was with a friend, and they said, "Who's that?" I said, "It's Clem. He can call me back." And they said, No, I'll stir it. And I said, "Clem, I'm cooking. What do you want?" And he said, "Well, we need a bass player." And I said, "Well, okay, cool. But in a couple of months?" He said, "No, next week." And I'm like, But anyway, I thought about it overnight. I thought, I fancy doing it. And so I was playing with Blondie. But, from doing what I've done with the Pistols, I've met people kind of before that influenced the Pistols, but we liked, because although we knocked and decried a lot of people around, there was some stuff that we did like. I worked with Iggy Pop. I worked with the version of the Faces, which was my all-time favourite band. Worked with Blondie, I worked with Primal Scream guys and stuff. It's kind of, to me, music, people say we was like a sea change thing, but I think it's like a kind of relay race, and you get the baton from the people before you that you like, and you run with it a bit, and then you pass it on to somebody else. So there you go.
Yeah, well, when you mentioned the Faces being your all-time favorite band, and that's documented in the film, of course, that was the thing that I thought was interesting about it, Glenn, is that, you think of the Pistols and you think of the influence on punk, and it's even talked about like, the band being branded punk. What was punk? Nobody was really quite sure. There's a term thrown around in the documentary, pub rock, which I had never heard, but that's used as well. But the thing I thought was interesting is on the Pistols and on that early genre of music, bands like the Faces, there were glam bands that it seemed to have some influence on what was going on. And then you had even mentioned, or somebody in the film mentions, that Pretty Vacant was actually lifted from an Abba song. So these are not influences you would expect, I would think, with a band like the Pistols.
Yeah, but you know what? All the people you mentioned, they were good. They weren't naff. They were good. I don't know about in America, but there was like Top of the Pops and the Faces be on, and they'd be cool. And they have all these clothes from a place called Granny Takes a Trip. And there would be a band called the Tremolos on who were trying to fit in with what was going on. And they had these really cheap satin trousers, and they looked abysmal. And some people have got it and some people haven't. The Faces had it. And in fact, if you listen to a track like Ballstall Boys by the Faces and listens to Steve Jones's guitar sound, there ain't much difference. And to me, the Faces were really important. I didn't realise they were a spin-off from the Small Faces when I first bought them. I bought a record because it looked like an old 78, and it was their second album, Long Player, and I put it on, and the first track's called Bad and Ruined, and it's like a Meters kind of soul kind of groove thing, and it kind of opened the door to lots of other stuff, because of them I checked out Big Bill Broonzy. There's a song called had me a real good time. I don't know if it's that one or no, Feel So Good is that one. And then some of the other Faces stuff with Rod Stewart, they did Losing You. It made me take the Temptations a lot more seriously. They was a very important band to me, and it's what got me the gig with Steve and Paul. They were big Faces fans, and in fact, at my audition, I played a track called Three Button Hand Me Down off their first album. It's the only one I could play all the way through without stopping. Don't tell them that, but it got me the gig. So, yeah.
Well, speaking about your ability as a bass player, I mean, you wrote some big songs for the Pistols, right? Using bass riffs.
I did, but I didn't write them on the bass. I've always written on an acoustic guitar, and then kind of got Steve doing something, or took the idea and then had a bass and showed it. But I've always been and still am, a reasonable rhythm guitarist. I'm not the same standard as Steve, but I know what I'm doing. But bass to me, it sounds funny and it's not very rock and roll, but playing bass to me is a bit like being a good plumber or a carpenter. Can you put some bass on this? Well, yeah, I can do it, but it's going to cost you. That's the way I look at it. My craft, my art is writing songs. My craft is playing the bass and making those songs come to light on stage. You look perplexed by that. I don't blame you.
No. I think it's fascinating, and it's interesting too, because you were allegedly dismissed from your gig in the Sex Pistols because Johnny accused you of liking the Beatles.
Well, there you go. I always liked bands like the Small Faces and the Kinks. I liked all of the London bands. When the Small Faces come out, I loved it because they weren't Liverpudlians, they were Londoners. They were right cockneys from the East End of London. So support your local team. That's all. And they were so cool, and they played great. I mean, if it weren't for the Small Faces, do you know their first album? There's this track called Come On Children. Didn't do Led Zeppelin with a Whole Lot of Love in the Arm. You check it out.
I will. But what would be wrong with liking the Beatles at that time? That would not have been considered a cool thing.
Well, it's supposedly a bit namby-pamby and a bit cool when they weren't the Rolling Stones. But that story is just not true. It was John and Malcolm trying to discredit me for some kind of reason. I was pretty hurt by that because we'd actually parted on quite amicable terms. And then he sent a telegram to the paper. And then had the audacity a couple of weeks later to call me up and have a meeting and want me to rejoin the band after he dissed me. So I told him where to go in strong language.
Uh-huh. Does it amaze you, Glenn, the impact of that one Pistols record, that here we are now in 2026, we're talking about this great documentary that you've done on you and the band, and that we'll get to this in a second, but there's a version of the band that you're in that's still active again, all based on that record. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable thing when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not kind of knocking it. Yeah, it is. It shows we must have done something right. And I think what we did was kind of a yardstick for lots of bands that we laid down a benchmark. And it's good and it sounds vital. It's fantastic production by Chris Thomas. But, there's a few records that come out over the years and they still sound fresh and vibrant. If you listen to original Elvis stuff or Gene Vincent, it still sounds vital, even though it was recorded on, a next to nothing kind of tape recorder. It's because the guys knew what they were doing and we knew what we was doing. And there was content there, and John was fantastic back then. He's hard to work with, but he was fantastic. You've got to give him his due and wrote some great lyrics. So, yeah.
We talked about the influence of the Faces, the Small Faces, but the other thing another band that came up, and I notice a lot of British acts talk about this band, but here in America they're fairly unknown, and I wanted to ask you about them, and that's the Alex Harvey Band. What is the influence of that band on British rock?
Well, they were kind of big-ish, but they never really broke through. Although they did a couple of hit records, but they weren't massive. But there was something about the guy. There was a Scottish band, Alex Harvey. There's a real heavy-duty looking Glaswegian. He weren't the best singer in the world, but there was a whole attitude about him. The band played great, and he had such a kind of a threatening demeanor on stage, very kind of theatrical, but in a rough and ready way. They were important. They were one of the few acts in town just before punk came along that were on similar kind of lines. It's a bit hard to explain, really. And he always picked kind of weird songs to cover. He does the most fantastic version of Jacques Brel's. In English, it's called Next. In French, it's called Au Suivant. And it's about a guy in the Foreign Legion who's a virgin who's queuing up in line for the Mobile Army House, which comes round to kind of service him. And the lieutenant's going, next, next. And the song is really audacious, and it was written in the late 50s, early 60s by Jacques Brel. But to hear it delivered by Alex Harvey in this Glaswegian accent, you got to check it out, man. It's even on YouTube. They did it on the old Grey Whistle test over it. It's out there,
Yeah, it's interesting to see about this influence, a band like the Sex Pistols, who were so influential, to see the influence that was on that band and what, how these other groups impacted them. Again, I found it really interesting when you referenced ABBA, for Pretty Vacant and putting that together. Well, I mean, that's not something people would think.
I'm going to tell you now, when you write a song, it's kind of two kinds of songs. There's a song like Waterloo Sunset, which has got a beautiful set of chord changes and what it's about. There's a song like maybe A Whole Lot of Love, which is mainly a riff. But there's also a third kind of song, which is a good set of chord changes and what it's about, and a great riff. And I knew when I was writing Pretty Vacant, it needed something, and it needed that kind of moronic riff. And I was sitting in a pub. I had most of the song, but it wasn't completed, and this record came on by Abba. Now, there's something that the bass player does in the middle of the song. He doesn't play the riff, but it gave me the idea to nip back to the studio and come up with that thing. And then Steve turned up later, and I said, "Here, look, I've got this thing." He turned the guitar up, and he interpreted it very well indeed. And the rest, as they say, is history.
What did you think, Glenn, of the branding of the band being branded as punk? What did you think when you first heard that applied to the Pistols? Did you embrace it, or were you confused by it?
Well, I was confused by it initially because the first time we really heard the word punk when we was younger was in the James Cagney music. Hey, you dirty punk. We thought, well, why are they calling us that? But then also around that time we got hip to that Nuggets album, which was called West Coast Punk. The guy from who's the guy who was in the Patti Smith group? Not Fred Smith, the other one, guitarist.
K.
Sorry?
It's K. His last name's K, I think.
Yeah, Lenny K. Lenny K.
Lenny K. Yeah.
Not Danny K, right? Lenny K. And he put that album out, and somehow some people in England picked up and that applied it to us. But we weren't that keen. We were just the Sex Pistols, and then bands that came afterwards, maybe they could be punk. But these days, I've been very fortunate. I get to travel around the world, not only with the Pistols, but other things. And punk has become a byword for kind of more alternative music, and people who read between the lines and, won't kowtow to what there's supposedly better to saying to them. So, I'll live with it and never going to get rid of it now. So there you go. But initially, and if you look up what it means in the dictionary, it's not very savoury, right?
Well, it's funny that you say that because, there's something in the documentary too. Malcolm McLaren, of course, as a huge role in the history of the Pistols as the manager of the band. And, he makes, there's a statement in the movie that I guess he saw the New York Dolls, who were also a band that people said could not play, but it was about image over ability, and that he believed that that's really what was most important. Where did you land on that as far as the image versus the ability to play?
Maybe Malcolm thought that and was right to a certain extent, but for people like me and in the punk world. Everybody thought the New York Dolls could play fantastically. They were great. I saw them. I went to see the Faces with my then girlfriend long time ago, and I actually bought a ticket, which I don't necessarily do. So I wanted to get my money's worth. So I wanted to see all the support bands. I had no idea who was on. There was a band called the Pink Fairies opened up. We never really got anywhere. They were like Labrador Grove Rockers. And then the New York Dolls came on. And it was the original band with Billy Mercier. And it was about a week before he died in France. So I'd seen them and I'd heard about them, but I'd never seen them. And they were outrageous and they had so much fun. But they played great. You know, Johnny Thunders didn't do a lot on the guitar, but what he did fantastically well. And he was like, for a kid his age, I mean, he's a bit older than us, but he had a sound. He was like an old blues guy. If he played one note, you knew it was Johnny Thunders. And they had the whole thing going on. I mean, they were pretty outrageous, but they played great, and the material was great. Why they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by now, I don't know, but they influenced so many people, especially in England.
Yeah, and there's really when you think about today's music, the idea of image superseding actual talent is actually pretty prominent, especially when you look at the pop world. Like when you talk about the bands we're talking about, whether it's the Dolls or the Pistols or anything, at least what you were hearing then was actually what the people were playing. Now we're in a world where you've got so many bands that are using electronics and faking it that they are image because they're playing to tapes and tracks and you don't even know what's real musically.
Yeah, and also, even if people do play live in the studio now, everything has to be so perfect. I can be a little bit guilty of this sometimes, that you kind of get it so perfect that everybody, you know, if you play an A chord, it sounds like everybody else's A chord. But when people play it a little bit sloppy or slightly out of tune, that's what gives it its personality and character. That's why I like the Faces so much. Ronnie Wood's a great guitarist, but he's not the most precise guitarist in the world. And you always think he always does make it, but you always think he's never quite going to make it, but he just gets there somehow. If you listen to the track, their last single, You Can Make Me Dance, it's like this sort of staxy, funky kind of thing. The guitar's fantastic, and how he does it, I don't know, but he does it. And he just about gets away with it, but it's great because of that. That's kind of attitude and personality in the play, and we have lost that a lot. And then the other thing is a bit silly, I think. You know, people say like Madonna's got a new image this week, and you look at the picture and she's got a different shirt on. I mean, it's tough.
Or a different face on.
Well, I'm trying to be a bit more gentlemanly.
But I was talking about the ability to play live because, you know, the punk bands or whatever deficiencies they may have had playing live, as a music fan in the audience, at least I knew what I was hearing was really what was being played. Now you go, there's bands that are running so many electronics and pitch controls and tapes and tracks and AI. You don't even know what the band's really capable of playing live. So it is very much about an image. It's like, you know, who looks great with their shirt off, who looks great with a shirt on, or whatever makeup they have. And oh yeah, are they actually playing live? At least back in the days we're talking about, you knew what was coming off that stage was what that band was able to execute.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that, really. I mean, the only problem is if you've got a problem with people not playing live, don't go and see them. I don't.
Exactly.
You know, the only people I would probably go and see, and they're playing soon, and I've never seen them live, is Kraftwerk, who I love. But, you know, they delight in pretending to not be live. So, but they've written some fantastic songs over the years and stuff. But at least with the Pistols, when we come out, we play live and we mean it, man. And, you know, we've all done loads of stuff individually over the years with different people. And you pick up a little bit of everything from the people you play with, and it comes across in your playing, and we're pretty darn good. And the new guy we got, Frank Carter, is fantastic. You know, he's really worthwhile seeing. He pitches it just right. He's not trying to be John. He's interpreting the songs in his own way. He's his own man, but he's a riveting performer. So there you go.
I wanted to ask you about that, Glenn, before we wrap up. And again, the documentary is called "I Was a Teenage Sex Pistol." Glen Matlock. Well, I want to first
Well,
find
can
out.
I also say this? It's based on my book, which is actually still available. You can, if you want to read about it, you can get it on Amazon and stuff. So it's on the Essential Books. So
And
do
how
that.
can people see the film? Because I know it's been out theatrically in some places, but at least here in America, is it going to go on a streaming platform? Do we know yet?
I believe in a few days' time it's actually coming out on Apple TV. So
Okay.
and maybe some other platforms as well. So
Okay.
there you go. But I'm
and
just a bloke that made the movie. That's somebody else's. That's somebody else's problem.
Right, right. And as far as what's happening with the Pistols now, you just touched on this with Frank Carter coming in as the singer in the band, and the documentary, the film ends before that happens. Obviously, that's not covered in the documentary. So, give everybody an update on what's happening with the band right now and how active the schedule is going to be.
Well, what's happening with the band right now is we've been touring for the past year and a half, on and off. It sounds great. And every time we gig, somebody else wants to book us. We were supposed to be coming to America the fall just gone, or autumn as we call it, but Steve had a mishap and he broke his hand really badly, so we had to cancel or postpone the tour. So the dates we're doing at the end of the summer in America are basically fulfilling what we should have done last year. Changed a bit because of availabilities of things, but in the meantime, we've got a whole European tour in England, and we've from now to the end of the year, and it starts properly. We did one gig in Spain about 10 days ago, but it starts properly on the 11th of June in Austria, and then we got like 65 gigs through to the end of the year, so we're going to be busy boys. But last year we was all around Europe. We went to Japan, we went to Australia, New Zealand, and they all want us back because it's good. So
that's got to be amazing to see this happening now, all these decades later, and with a new singer, and to have that kind of reaction around the world.
Yeah, we're not complaining. And you know what? It's also fun. And maybe before it was all a bit gritted teeth with John and Paul's wife saw us. We initially did this little show for a local venue in London called Bush Hall, which was kind of struggling a little bit. So we did the show to kind of help them out financially, but also to see if it would work with Frank. And it went down really well. And when we walked off stage, Paul's wife said, "Do you know what, Glenn? I've seen you with John, and I've seen you with this guy, and it's the first time you guys have walked off stage with a smile on your faces." So, there you go. So,
and at this point in your
really
life,
want to knock anybody, but we're all getting on a bit now. We want to own a few bob, rock out, and have a laugh, and that's what we're doing. And when you're going to see in a band and they're all po-faced and you must buy our record because we're the next thing since I don't know that they're all uptight. It rubs off on the audience. When you have fun on stage, it rubs off on the audience too, and they dig it more. And it's more kind of honest. So there you go.
Yeah,
we
it's
put our demons to bed and left them in some what would you call it? Like a locked box of files in the lawyer's office back in the city of London somewhere, and we're just getting on with it. So there you go.
Yeah, and at this point in your life, I mean, that's all anybody wants is to be happy and have fun with what they're doing. I had Stuart Copeland from The Police on the show yesterday, and he said, "We get along great as long as we don't try to make music together." He said,
Well, there you go. We're actually getting on great making music here. But just talking about The Police, which you kind of alluded to, a couple of years back I was playing with Blondie. You might not get this being American, but nothing personal, but this was before we got the new singer, and I was playing with Blondie, and we did some shows with Sting, and we were sitting backstage in the afternoon. It was me, John Giddens, who's the promoter, and we was going to do a gig in London with Blondie, Iggy Pop, and this thing Generation Sex, which was Steve and Paul and Billy Idol and Tony James from Generation X. But anyway, John says, there's going to be three of you from the Pistols there, and all you need is a singer. right? And Sting overheard, we're having a cup of tea. He said, well, I'll do it. And we said, go on then. He goes, anarchy in the UK. I said, Sting, very good. But you got to do it in a Geordie accent, which is where he comes from. The Geordies are from Newcastle way, Northumberland. And he went, all right, I got you. And there's a little catchphrase that they say, and he goes, how about this? Anarchy in the UK. Way up, mum. Right, which is a real Geordie thing of doing. And we thought he could possibly have the gig, but you should have been there at the time.
so Sting almost sung for the Pistols.
Well, it was a bit of a joke, but he would have to do it in his Geordie accent. But, he's cool. Sting, every time we play with him, I sat and watched him play bass. He's really good on the bass. But he watched me as well. So I'm quite pleased about that.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Well, Glenn,
there's another thing like that. We did do that show I was talking about. And when I came on stage, there was Slash there, right? And he said, I didn't realise you were doing that. Now, 2 weeks before, we played Glastonbury, and I was talking to Slash. And I said, well, you saw me at Glastonbury. He said, oh, I just thought you was hanging about.
Glenn, it's a pleasure to talk to you and have you on the show when you get to the States. I hope I get a chance to see the band. And thank you for the time. Again, the documentary is called I Was a Teenage Sex Pistol, and the book as well is out there now. And people can keep an eye on Apple in the next few days. Hopefully they'll see that come up on their streaming.
Yeah, and also if you want to check the dates out, there's a Sex Pistol site. But I've got an Instagram page, which I always keep up to date. Glen Matlock 1. It's got all the US dates on it and other stuff I'm up to as well. So come on down, check it out.
All right. We'll keep an eye on that as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good night there in England. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. See ya.
Okay. Bye-bye. There goes everybody. Glen Matlock. Wonderful to have him on the show, and we appreciate it very much. And, man, I'm telling you, that doc is great. If you get a chance, go check it out. I really enjoyed it. And for me, it was educational to some point because, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm super, super well-versed in that particular era. I know the broad strokes of it, but I really found it interesting and some real interesting insights on that period. And again, for me, the thing that was really interesting was the influence of it. The fact that, you think of punk and you don't necessarily think of, I don't know, bands like the Faces coming up, or the Small Faces, or Abba. Abba was the influence on the song Pretty Vacant by the Pistols. So it's a pretty interesting, enlightening documentary, and it's very honest. He was the guy. Matlock was the guy. And then Johnny Rotten comes into the band and they butt heads, and he's like, gets mad at him because he likes the Beatles. And they were butting heads already. And then he used it as an example to basically ace him out of the band, out of the Pistols. And bring in a guy in Sid Vicious who could not play. He literally could not play bass. Like he was incompetent as a musician. But he was friends with Johnny, and he had this attitude and this look, and there's the image over ability thing at that time. And then, of course, that ended horribly because he was a drug addict and died very, very young. And we all know that story. And now here we are in 2026, still with one album, and the Pistols with a new singer because, well documented the issues they had working with Johnny. And 3 of the original members are out there, as you just heard, touring all over the world. Pretty incredible. And again, documented in that new film. All right, we thank Glen Matlock for some time. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll welcome another bass player, Michael Anthony, the one, the only, our good buddy. We just had a first-time guest, and now we have a guest that's been
Huge fan.
With Eddie Trunk.
All right, we are back, and we are live on this Wednesday, talking rock with you here on Trunk Nation, Faction Talk 103, and the Sirius XM app. I've had a busy show this week already. Stuart Copeland of The Police was on with us yesterday. Minutes ago, we just hung up with Glen Matlock of the Sex Pistols, and now we welcome another bass player to the show and an old friend and always a great guy to talk to and have on the show, the one and only Mr. Michael Anthony. What's happening, buddy?
Yes, sir. It's all happening here in Southern California. I know you're in Vegas right now, down here at the beach. It's like summer now. Dang, I'm ready to go out and play some outdoor shows.
Well, you're going to be doing that soon. You are actually going to be doing that.
Yeah, actually, we start next month on the 13th, June 13th.
I am looking at the schedule right now on Sammy's website. And for a guy that doesn't want to, kind of wants to wind it down a little bit, he ain't winding it down.
No, not really. You know, it depends on what side of the bed he wakes up on in the morning. You know, one day I'm not booking any more shows for a year. Blah, blah, blah. The next thing I know, hey, we're going to go to Europe. We're doing this, we're doing that. You know, but it's all good. You know, I love getting out and playing, and so I'm fine with it.
I was going to ask you how you feel about it. Like, would you prefer to work more? Would you prefer to work less? Do you like this kind of pace that he's on?
It's kind of funny because once you get out there and you're all rehearsed and you're ready to go, I mean, let's go out for a while, because at that point it's all, all the hard work's been done, and now you're ready to go out there and have some fun with the fans. So as far as I'm concerned, I'll go out and tour, well, I won't tour like we used to tour, months and months at a time. But, I'm not opposed to, going out and having some fun. But, it is nice doing like the residency that we've been doing a couple times now in Las Vegas. And, especially for Sam because of his voice. And, all singers will attest to that, that especially when you're getting a little bit older, the traveling, it really takes it out on the vocal cords,
Yeah, no doubt. Well, how did you, I saw you guys on the Las Vegas residency, and there's another one starting on the 18th of September, so another run of dates at the Dolby Live at Park MGM. How did you feel about the last one? The show I saw, you guys looked like you were having a blast up there as usual.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, the first residency that we did, the first run of shows, it was kind of like, feeling a few things out as far as the venue and sound system and, all that stuff. And so this time around, it was more just like having fun. Half the time I wanted to just turn around and look at the screen behind us because we don't really get to see a lot of what's going on back there. It's funny because during the show, I'll turn around and go, oh my God, there I am. Jeez, should have, big up there on the screen. But no, I think we're much more comfortable last time. And, especially like I said, when you got everything rehearsed and it's kind of second nature, then you can really go out there and have fun with the fans.
You know what's amazing? I don't know if you remember this, but Sammy asked me to bring you guys on. I introed you the first night of that residency, and I brought you out one by one, and then the band played, and I had not been, I don't think, ever out on that stage before. I've been to shows there, but I never actually walked out on that stage before at this venue. Most people have been there now, Park MGM. That's a really big stage. Now, I know you've played stadiums and all that, but just in terms of the way how wide that stage is, that's a really big stage I would think with four guys up there, like you can kind of everyone can kind of be in like their own zone if you don't come together some, right?
Don't cross this line. Yeah, it's kind of funny because the older you get, the first thing, it's funny, we go to sound check somewhere or whatever, the first thing we walk up on stage, the first thing I look at is how wide's the stage? How much of a workout are we going to have tonight? And of course, you got the audience that's all across the whole thing too. So, you want to make sure that you get there and, play to some of these people here and whatever. So, it's a bit of a workout, but it's great.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great sounding venue. It's a perfect size venue. And again, more of those shows coming up in September. And before that, you can see Sammy and Kenny Aronoff and, of course, Joe Satriani and Michael with dates, some headline shows in amphitheaters. There's just a handful of them, not too many of them. You got Michigan, you got Missouri, you got New Jersey, you got Massachusetts. So there's a few dates out there. Everybody can go to redrocker.com and you can see where those shows are, and that's what's announced. And then you're going to England, right? I mean, I don't think Sammy's been over there in a while.
No, yes, God, I think the last time he was over there was the last time he was there with us with Van Halen. In fact, that might have been one of the last times I was. No, we actually went over with Chickenfoot, and we did shows over there. But that was some time back. But yeah, it's like Sammy did the Ozzy Osbourne tribute, and here we go again. All it takes is one person to walk up to Sammy and go, "Oh, Sam, you guys got to come over here and play, man. It'll be freaking great." Next thing I know, hey guys, I think we're gonna go do some shows in England. So, and of course I go, well, if we're going to England, let's go to Germany. Let's go, here and there and play a few more shows. Nope. We got a handful of shows in England, but it'll be fun. It's a short run, but we're going to have a great time over there.
Yeah. 5 dates, and they're big venues too. So there's definitely some demand there. I'm hoping, I don't think I'm ever going to talk him into doing this, but of course, one of the great experiences of my life was a couple years ago going to Japan with you guys. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping he'll do one more shot over there. That would be, that's another one I try to get on your coattails for.
Yeah. I'd like to do another run over there. We had a good time over there, and it had been 20 or 30 years since the last time that Van Halen was over there. And the crowds and the audience and the way the audience is controlled or whatever is way different than it was way back in the day. They were like very orderly. People applaud as soon as you start talking. It gets real quiet. It still is kind of like that. But, it's very orderly, the way the people come in, the way they leave the venue in sections. And, it's a little more crazy. They let them get a little more crazy towards the end of the show now. But we had some good shows there. I'd love to go back.
2 of my favorite stories from that trip, just to tell people about the audience, to your point. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what city we were in, but, Sammy was going around the front of the stage, and he's grabbing the records from people that are holding them up, and he's signing them in the middle of the set. And he took one record, I don't know if it was OU812 or whatever, he signed it, and then he threw it back to the person who gave it to him over the barrier. Mm-hmm. And just the wind or the way he threw it, it kind of trickled out to somebody else, like 3 rows away. And that person, instead of taking it and running with it, found the person and brought it back to the rightful owner and handed it to him. And if you remember, during the show, Sammy said on the PA, he goes, "Damn, man," he goes, "you fucking people in Japan are too polite." He goes, if that happened in America, they'd be fighting for that shit.
It'd be shredded up, that's for sure.
I mean, that just speaks to how the Japanese people are, how respectful they are. Exactly.
And, we hung out a bit. We went to a few dinners and lunches and walked around a bit. And it's a very nice, it's most places, it's clean and the people are very, very friendly.
Yeah, speaking of lunches, Michael and I went for ramen one afternoon. Do you remember what happened? So
yeah, I do.
We walked. This is crazy. We went into this mall where there was a ramen shop, and we were with that guy George, who was the translator, and your wife Sue was there, and we're waiting for the table. And another restaurant down the hall, as I'm walking by, there's a guy, and the restaurant's not open yet. He's just doing prep, and he's cranking Women and Children First while he's making his prep, having no idea that an original member of Van Halen is 20 feet away waiting for a table. So I go up to Michael and I said, "Mike, you're not going to believe this." I said, "The guy over there," he's playing Women and Children. And this speaks to I've told this story, this speaks to the type of person you are, because a lot of rock guys I know would have been like, "Oh shit, I don't want to deal with him," or whatever. You went over and knocked on the door and said hello to him.
They're like, "Hey, what you playing in there?" And then I think the guy kind of fell over backwards.
Can you imagine?
He hit the floor.
Yeah, can you imagine? You're just sitting there enjoying Everybody Wants Some or whatever he's listening to, and then all of a sudden you hear knock, knock. Oh, and there's a guy from the band waving to you what the hell are you doing here?
Eddie, I love doing that kind of stuff when we're on tour. Real quick, we weren't on tour, but, in Vegas, they've got the area called the Link, and they got the High Roller, which is the huge fair wheel. But the Link, there's an area, it's that one street, and they've got a few bars, whatever. And there's a couple of them where bands play. And one band, my wife and I, we were with a few other people at night, and we were walking down the street there. And one of the bands in one of these places was playing Jump. And I said, "Oh, check this out," because it was totally open. I ran in there and sang the second verse. I went up to the mic, and I think that I sang a couple of lines and then ran out. And I think the guy, he couldn't even process what just happened.
Oh, my God. So you totally bum rushed the stage, sang a verse, a Jump, and then jumped off and that was it, in and out.
I think by the time I was jumping off stage, he was just realizing who just got up there and grabbed the mic from him.
But that's great stuff, man. And that speaks to the type of person you are. And it also is just such a cool thing. You would think it's a memory that guy's never going to forget. Like, I swear to you, Michael Anthony jammed this song with us. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you get so many, a lot of people, I mean, I'm not going to name names, but a lot of people I know in the business, like you said, they're all, "Oh, yeah, I can't be bothered," or they've got a bodyguard with them, they got this and that, "Oh, no, you can't sign anything." I look at it like, these are the people who buy your records, they go to your shows, they put the money in my pocket. It's like, I'm not gonna diss them. I'll go out there and I say hi to them. It's funny because you go places on the road, like God, even walk into a McDonald's or walk into somewhere, and half the time they go, "Oh my God, no, you're not him. You can't be him." A couple times I actually took my ID out of my wallet, my driver's license, because
yes, it's really me. Yeah, you just want a Big Mac like anybody else too.
Yeah, I like to junk out every now and then, like everyone else.
Sure. Hey, real quick, I got to ask you this too, and we're going to talk about the charity here in a second. I promise you. But I had a conversation last week. We got into a big conversation on the show about tribute bands, because I had this guy on my show from a Pink Floyd tribute called Britt Floyd that was doing 2 nights at Red Rocks. That's how big this band has gotten. And we were just talking about what's happening with some of these tribute acts and how big some of them are getting. And in some cases, the band they're paying tribute to doesn't exist anymore. How many of these bands try to look like the people they're impersonating or just sound like them. I had Neil Sean on the show last week. We were talking about Journey tributes. There's probably Van Halen's got to be up there with the top 2 or 3 amount of bands that there's tributes to. Where do you land on tribute bands? What do you think of all that?
You know what? I think it's very flattering, that they are into the band, that they love Van Halen so much that they want to get out there and, and emulate it. So I guess, it's kind of funny that you even brought this up, because just earlier today, my tech, Doogie, sent me a link to this Instagram where some band, a Van Halen tribute band, was playing. And I swear to God, they had our whole the speakers, Alex's drum kit, right down to the clothes, whatever. And they brought some 7 or 8-year-old kid up on stage and played Ain't Talking About Love. First, he did part of Eruption. I'm going, oh, I guess they were showcasing, posting it because of this kid, how young he was. He comes up with a striped jumpsuit on like Eddie, and the guitar is probably about 3/4 of this guy's whole, as big as he was. And he got up there and he freaking played Eruption. I was like, oh my God. But then, kids today, you go on the internet and it's just unbelievable. But, these tribute bands, that's great. There was oh my God, what I can't remember right now. The big tribute band that Ralph came out of.
Atomic Punks.
Atomic Punks. I actually I jammed with those guys like 3 or 4 times on occasion. In fact, they were doing some corporate show somewhere for, I don't know if it was for Google or something like that. And Ruff asked me if I'd come and do a couple of Van Halen songs, and I actually came out to the thing and played with them. It was a great event. But hey, I feel honored to have people get up there and they and most of the time you go there and you check the band out and they're blown away that you're there checking them out, and a lot of them are really good. And it's really cool to see these guys that are like buzz cut or whatever. Guy puts the wig on and now he's David Lee Roth and takes the wig off after the show, and you wouldn't even know that this guy can even sings.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. With most of the Van Halen ones I've seen, they try to emulate and look like the people in the band, whether they try to look like you with the Jack Daniels bass or whatever, or look like Roth or Sammy or whoever they're doing, and obviously, you know, trying to look like Ed. So you see a lot of that with Van Halen in particular, but with the Zeppelin ones, the Journey ones, sometimes you see that. A lot of times it's not. I think it's because Van Halen had such a defined image, you know, of what you guys were wearing at the time, that people try to maybe more look like you as well.
Well, okay, because I've seen some of these bands where the bass player is kind of large. I'm like, oh my God, what are they? am I that big? They got here. What your requirement is, you got to gain 20 pounds to be in this tribute band. You're Michael Anthony. I'm like, what the heck?
Well, look, man, I see a lot of Kiss tributes, and you know they've got to put that super tight spandex on and everything, and I'm like, Jesus, you can't. I mean, you can't possibly. You got to be in tip-top shape to pull off the Kiss tribute, because that thing is in skin-tight spandex head to toe. That's crazy.
Either that, or you got to be the little guys, the little midget Kiss guys,
right? Mini Kiss,
the mini Kiss, and they're. I mean, but yeah, I mean, but that shows the dedication that some of these guys, you know, like, you know, the Kiss Army. I remember when I was. My youngest brother, Dennis, who's 12 years younger than me, when he first, I made a couple of years, he went to Halloween, and, you know, and he was in the Kiss Army, and he wasn't even like 10, 9, you know. But it's great, you know, that they care for a band, they love a band that much, you know. That's one click above being the stalker, you know. once they get to that point, then
right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely a line. Hey, so let's talk about what you want to talk about today, which is very, very important, obviously, and you've come on before to talk about this every year, and that is a walk that is dedicated. Well, that you've raised funds for a children's hospital in the name of your late grandson Rex, right? So tell everybody about the cause if they've not heard about this. We've covered it before. I mentioned it the other day on the air, but it's always great for you to come on and talk about it and help raise funds for this great cause. So tell everybody about it.
Yeah, well, in 2017, my daughter gave birth to her son Rex Michael. And he was born with CHD, which is congenital heart disease. And you know, at that point, I didn't know really much about it. And she never even got to hold him after he was born. We whisked him off, and he ended up at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. And you know, I'd heard about the hospital, as a lot of people know about the hospital, but you really don't know just what exactly they do. And unfortunately, the circumstances that we were thrown into it, you know, it's the worst case scenario. But they performed heart surgery on him, and pardon me. And this is like, he's a newborn, you know, and the surgery was successful. They had to do some interior work on his heart with the valves and stuff. And although the surgery was successful, he was too weak and too small to survive, and so he passed at 2 weeks old. But during that time, we spent a lot of time at the hospital, like, you know, in the family rooms and whatever. And it's amazing on one hand, and on the other hand, it's heartbreaking, because you sit there with couples that have children there, either going through surgeries or whatever. And, you know, you meet some of them and you see what they're going through. And then you also see, on the other hand, what the doctors and staff all do there, which is totally amazing. And you know, besides that, you know, there are children's hospitals. It's the same kind of hospital that they work, you know, on donations. They will never turn away a kid that's in need, or a newborn that's in need of surgery or medical treatment. If their family can't pay, they still take the kid in, you know, and that's the kind of place that it is. And actually, it was shortly after what happened to him. They started doing they call it Walk and Play LA for the Children's Hospital, where you get together and they have a walk and raise donations for the hospital. And on the day that the walk is, they have like it's a big fundraising event. So in the morning, they have interactive things. It's like a whole family thing. You walk to raise the money. And then also they have interactive games and stuff like that. They have, like they've had guys from the Dodgers, the Rams, the Kings, you know, mascots, they all come out. and and kind of celebrate what the hospital does, and then also raising money for the hospital too. So since then, every year, it's a really passionate thing that our family does now. Actually, all year round, but every year in particular when they do this major fundraising to raise awareness and money for the hospital, and for the work that they do.
And I know you usually actually participate in the walk, but because of the timing of it and this tour schedule coming up, you physically can't be there this year, right?
Yeah, this year I cannot make it, and it sucks, but we're getting ready to go out on tour. So, but one thing that I've got a Mad Anthony's Cafe. We do. I make my hot sauces and everything. We're actually supporting. The company's actually supporting the walk this year, and I'm going to have a booth there at the fundraiser the day of the walk. My daughter Elisha, who works for me, and my wife Sue will be there running the booth, and we won't be selling anything. But if people happen to be there doing the walk or hanging out or whatever, they're welcome to come by. I'm going to have samplings and tastings of all the sauces and stickers, and where you can come to buy it if you want, go on the website or wherever to buy the sauce. So, plus we're making donations through Mad Anthony's Cafe to the hospital this year also.
Yeah, and people know that have been listening to me know what a big fan of the Mad Anthony's Cafe sauces I am. The hot sauce, the mustard, the barbecue sauce, the hot barbecue is great. I'm actually due for. I told you this last time. I forgot to follow up. I'm due for some.
I got a shipment come to you. I keep you sauced up, Ed.
I got to keep me sauced up. Make sure it comes to Vegas. I need it to come here. But I'm serious, and it's funny because when we went to Japan, which we were talking about before. You even brought some of the mustard to Japan. Remember, we're sitting back at catering, and I remember Michael said, "You bought that." I mean, Sammy was going, "Michael, you bought your sauce here?" And it's like, "Yeah, we're mixing it in with all the Japanese sauces. It works for everything, man."
But really, really quick, getting back to the walk. If anybody would like to donate, though, I've got the name of our team is Rex and the Heartbeaters, and you can make a donation through if you on Instagram. There's a link in my bio that'll take you right to my homepage where you can donate to the hospital through me. Or if you go to the Walk and Play LA 2026 for Children's Hospital, you can look up our team and donate through me or through our team that way.
Yeah, so that's an important part for people to understand that are listening. Yeah. Even though you're not physically going to be there, the fundraising is still happening. And people can still make the donations online, and it's all going to go to the cause. Yeah,
and to this date, they informed us at Children's Hospital that the Rex and the Heartbeaters, since we started doing that, we're coming close to. I mean, we'll be at around $400,000 that we've raised for for the hospital since we've been doing this. Our team, so that's great. Anybody who's listening or watching, I want to thank anybody who's donated because that's great. That's something that's very close to my family's heart, and I thank you.
Yeah, and the web address to donate again is what? What's the address again? The hospital, right? It's the hospital.
Yeah, you can go to chla.com, or you can go to the event is called Walk and Play LA 2026. Just Google that, and it'll take you right to the event page, and you can see everything that's going on. They'll show you because the walk starts early in the morning. It's around 8 in the morning or something like that. And it's over by noon. But if you're in the area, it's being held at the Santa Monica Pier out here. It's great. And the walk is along the water. And, plus you got all the rides on the pier there and stuff like that. But it'll be a great time. Like I said, there's all kinds of games that the kids can play and, food and stuff like that. It's a great morning to have this.
All right, good. Well, everybody listening, if you can, even if you could just kick in a couple bucks, like you said the other day, every little bit helps, whether it's a big donation, a small donation, it all goes into the pool and it all helps. The price of a Starbucks is $10. Throw that in there, whatever you can do. Definitely help out for a great cause.
If everyone that follows me donates $5, God, that'd be freaking amazing on Instagram.
Yeah. If you find Michael on Instagram, is it Mad Anthony Bassman on Instagram?
Yeah.
So
Mad Anthony, Mad _ Anthony under / Baseman.
Yeah, search it on Instagram if you're not following Michael already. That's the one social media you actually do, right? Is Instagram.
Yeah, yeah. Like my stuff bounces onto Facebook and whatever that I post, but Instagram is the one that that's the platform where I keep in touch with all the fans and everybody.
Okay, and I am pretty sure it's a verified account, so you should easily find it if you just search for Michael Anthony. So, all right, buddy. Well, hey, one other thing. This 5150 reissue that came out recently, pretty cool, right? Were you involved in that at all?
Yeah, we were all involved. I mean, they send us, they send us this and that. Look at these pictures. Look at those pictures. Listen to this. Listen to that. And that's great. A lot of these remastered stuff, and I have to give a shout out and God rest in peace, Don Landy, who was our assistant engineer with Ted Templeman in the early days and worked with us. Pardon me. Well, into when Sammy was with it. He just passed away recently, and he was very much involved with the remastering of all these compilations. And he was a great guy. We learned a world of info in the time that we worked with him.
I'm glad you brought that up because he was a majorly important figure in the history of Van Halen, to the first record, right? I mean, he was Ted Templeman's engineer on the first album, right?
Yeah. Him and Ted were a team. They were the Warner Brothers. The Warner Brothers had their staff of producers back in the day that worked exclusively for their label, and Don Landy was Ted's guy, and he was the only guy this guy he worked wonders back then in the studio. I could never, this guy had amazed me. Like back then, we had tape, and when you had to make a splice somewhere or whatever, this guy was like in 10 seconds would make a splice, and he'd never tell that a verse was cut out or this was cut out or whatever. He was a master at what he did, man. And big into getting the sound that we had.
Which is an iconic sound. And he actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he actually build the 5150 studio with Eddie?
Yeah. He actually put it together with Eddie and another guy by the name of Ken Dean, who was kind of a house engineer, worked for Eddie for many years and kind of manned the station every day. And Don basically, he put the board together, he put the machines together, he put everything together with Ed. And it's kind of funny because once the magic was happening, that equipment in that studio was on 24/7. Nothing was ever shut off. Kept everything ready to go at any given moment.
Because in case there was spontaneity and somebody wanted to just go in and record something?
Yeah. And in those early days, and also, when Sammy was in the band, as soon as we get into the studio and picked up our instruments, we'd get the tape rolling or whatever and just let it go. Because you never know. So many times when you go, wow, what was that I played again? Oh, damn, I can't remember. I mean, we'd let it roll. I wish that someday, Alex, we could put out some of the stuff, not when we were playing, but in between takes. Some of that stuff, you wouldn't believe. The hilarity. You'd wonder how we ever got anything done in the studio sometimes.
Oh, so it's you guys not playing, it's you kind of like goofing around?
Yeah, in between takes. When the banter between everybody, when we're out in the studio, between the takes. It's like amazing.
Yeah. That would be fun to hear. It could be a comedy record, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. The first album with Sammy, we have that little thing on the end of the record from the inside. Yeah. That little jam thing that we did. And that's what that grew out of. That's the kind of stuff that we just goof around in the studio when we're not recording.
Yeah. Well, see, now you got me thinking of things that I always wanted to ask you that come into my mind. So can you give me 5 more minutes? I just got to ask you these things now that are in my head. So at the end of Women and Children First, which is one of my favorite Van Halen records, last song in a simple rhyme, one of my favorites. But then there's that riff at the end that comes in out of nowhere. That's like nothing to do with the song. What? There's always been talk. There's a title for that or something, or it was going to be the start of something on Fair Warning. Like, what was that?
There was, nothing ever came of it, and if I recollect, they just called it Tank.
Somebody said it was called Grow.
Grow?
Yeah, I don't know. I just have heard these stories about it. Tank?
I can't, you know what? But I can't be 100% sure. I'm sure somebody will call in and they'll go, no, it wasn't. It was this. It was that. But yeah, like a song like "One Foot Out the Door." That was that type of deal too. That one riff that never got used, "One Foot Out the Door." That was something like that. That ended up, Ted Templeman or someone would go, "Oh my God, that sounds great. Let's do something with it." And that was something. Eddie had this little piece of crap keyboard thing. I don't know if it was electro-harmonics or whatever. It was like maybe an octave or whatever. And it was like, it was a piece of crap. Thing was made noise and cracked and all this stuff. And Eddie would be goofing around with it every day in the studio. And so we came up with a couple of things that, what was it called? The
Oh yeah.
I actually played that during one of my bass solos on one tour, and I think it went out of that into "One Foot Out the Door." But that was just something Eddie just came up with, some weird little thing, and we go, "Hey, let's put it on the album." People wonder,
it's amazing, and I did a big thing on this a couple weeks ago on the show. Fair Warning just turned 45.
Yeah.
45, and that's the album that all the guitar players point to, besides the first one, as the one that they love because the sound changed or whatever. Yeah,
and it was a heavier, album, and it was more guitar oriented. And it was kind of like, we I don't know. For some reason on that album, we never made any kind of conscious effort that, oh my gosh, that was, we need more keyboard on this or whatever. It's just whatever came out or whatever ideas Eddie had just came out, and we worked on them. And if it sounded good to us, we put it on the record. If it didn't, then we canned it, or it's sitting in 5150 studio right now. But
that's why I always thought that riff at the end of "Women and Children," which is so heavy, would have been so cool if something came of it on Fair Warning, which was the next record, because it just sounds like that's like the bridge piece between those two records. Even though I think "Women and Children" is actually a very heavy record too, "Fools" and all that stuff, super.
Yeah,
heavy.
It's funny because we had the Cradle Will Rock, and most people thought that was guitar Ed was playing because he was blowing this little electric piano through a Marshall stack, and it did not sound like a keyboard.
No, that's amazing stuff. And lastly, what do you hear? Like, we know, I think it's an interesting time with the history of Van Halen, because you got Dave out there, for better or worse, depending upon who you ask, doing his thing.
No comment.
I'm sure you won't. I'm not asking you to. You have Sammy out there, who of course you're playing with, predominantly focused on his era of Van Halen. Although we should tell people, on the Best of All Worlds, you will get up and do "Somebody Get Me a Doctor," and there's one or two Roth era songs in the set.
And we're working on a couple of other ones that people might enjoy for the summer and for September.
Okay, and then
I got whatever Sam will let me sneak in.
Well, it's great when you do that, and now you've got Alex putting out another Van Halen book, called Van Halen, more of like a photo book. So, and also we talked about 5150, the reissue for that. You've got the Sammy era was ignored for a long time as far as the reissues. Now there's a lot of that stuff coming out. So it seems like, Van Halen fans are always thirsty for something different, new. Everyone's really hoping the archives get cracked open and some old video or audio comes out. But it seems like there's at least some movement starting to happen, isn't there? Yeah.
It's funny because of, I don't want to get into any of the dirt or any of that stuff, because there's still, between Alex and Sammy, and I haven't spoken to Alex in years now, and I don't know if that might have something directly to do with me playing with Sam or what, but But
He
yeah,
won't come on. Hey, Michael, he won't come on this show to promote his stuff because I think maybe it might have something to do with the fact that I'm friends with you and Sammy. So we're all screwed.
who knows? Yeah,
There's nothing to fear here, but I'm just saying it's weird. I don't know. I don't know the guy at all.
Yeah, well, you know what? As you probably remember, got a few years back, 3 years or whatever, I went and saw Wolfgang. He played the House of Blues, and we hung out.
The night before my party.
That's right. It was the night before that we had your anniversary party. And, and Valerie was at that show. And my wife and I went, and Valerie's brothers were there who used to, hang out and be part of the posse when Van Halen was, back in the day. And it was a great evening because, not just seeing Wolfie, he was amazing. It's like I basically saw that kid when he was like, born, growing up, and then all of a sudden he turns into this incredible musician. But we hung out with them and Valerie and whatever, and it was great because a lot of kind of tension and, some of it that kind of had to do with Eddie and myself, was kind of put to rest, speaking with Valerie and whatever. But, if Wolfie can get off the road for a second, I'm sure he's going to tear into some of that archive stuff. I know he wants to create his own, he wanted to create his own identity away from the band and his dad, because obviously he didn't want to be pigeonholed into the whole Van Halen thing. But, who knows when, but I have a feeling that, Wolfgang, he'll dig into it. He's going to dig into it and put stuff out there when he's ready. But I think it's going to happen. Who knows when, but.
Yeah, I brought it up to him many times. Every time I brought it up to him, he always just says, "That's up to Al." He goes, "That's up to Al." I leave it to Al. He always defaults to Al.
He took the easy way out there, huh?
Yeah, he just doesn't seem to really want to focus on it. But being a younger guy, maybe he will. I mean, I had Jason Newsted on this show a week or two ago.
I listened to him. Yeah, I saw Jason's take on the whole thing and reunion and stuff like that, and I got kudos to Jason because he had a very good perspective on his thoughts on the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that feel, myself included, that there really still should be some final event somehow.
Yeah,
it's too important to just kind of end the way it ended. I think as a tribute to Ed and just the history of the band. I mean, man, when you see some of the stuff that's gone on and some of the tributes for some of these bands, what just happened for Sabbath and Ozzy, very deserved. But I mean, Van Halen, I've said to you many times and to anyone who listen, to me, Van Halen is the American Led Zeppelin, and it should be commemorated in a real way. Yeah,
any guitar player or, musician could put together a tribute to Eddie, but it would be great if, because the rest of us are still here. If anything could happen with us all being involved too, being as, we were all in the band, but who knows? I mean, I'm not the guy. I'm not going to sit there and knock on the door all day long. But if somebody knocks on my door and it's something that sounds like it could be very cool, like Jason said, like I've said in interviews, not a tour, whatever,
right?
A couple of giant shows, maybe, or maybe one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, whatever, and just a full on tribute and thank you to the guy who freaking opened up guitar to, took it to the next level.
Yeah. Or even if it's just a couple nights at the Forum, keep it local, keep it easy for everybody. The world would come to it. You wouldn't have to go to them. The world would come to you guys.
I guarantee any guitar player would want to come and be a part of it. And I think that would really be the amazing thing right there, is to see all the, because I obviously, plenty of guitar players, and I do, and they all would be chomping at the bit to come up and jam, do a couple of songs.
The problem would be who you couldn't have because of time, because there wouldn't be anybody who wouldn't want to do it. It would be the editing. That would be the job, because it would just be like floodgates. It would be crazy. So who knows? Jason said he thinks it's getting too late. Like, I don't agree with that. I think the aura and the the enormity of the music and the fact that the music continues to resonate with new people and new generations, I don't think it's ever too late. I still think it should happen, and it should happen sooner than later, but I don't think there's a timetable on it. I just think it has to be done, and like to your point, done right.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously it can be done, but I mean, time's not running out yet, but it's getting thin for all of us other members to be involved actively in doing something, because I definitely would love to be part of something like that,
Yeah. Well, listen, buddy, I appreciate the time. It's always great to talk to you, and you're always the best just to shoot the shit with. And most important, again, let's remind everybody the real reason for the conversation today is to help out that charity for Michael. So do the right thing. If you can go kick a couple bucks in, whatever you can spare, just go over, find Michael's Instagram, and all you got to do is hit that link in there, and you can make a donation, even if it's $5, whatever, man. You go to a Starbucks, you drop $10 on a coffee. So take a coffee off one day, throw $10 in there, whatever you can do to help out the kids and help out the hospital in this great cause in the name of his late grandson, Rex. It's a great and worthy cause for a really special hospital there. And I hope it's a great day there for everybody doing the walk in Santa Monica.
Me too. I'm going to be, I'll be out of town, but I'm sure I'm going to be FaceTiming people all morning long. All right. And I appreciate you getting the word out there, helping get the word out there about everything, Eddie. And as always, and
anything I can do,
I'll give our man a little quick plug here.
Oh, there's a little something for Doug.
Something for Doug.
Doug is the guy that owns a company called Sick Boy and Sickies, which Michael and I and many other rock fans represent. It's a clothing brand, and me and Michael are a couple of the OGs on that one. So that's for our buddy Douglas Emmerly. And
the only thing that we have to worry about is making sure we don't wear the same shirt when we're hanging out together.
There's been times where I've shown up, I'm like, shit, I almost wore that shirt tonight. Yeah. Thankfully, there's enough variations on it that we're good. So
exactly.
And seriously, and I say it all the time, the Matt Anthony Cafe sauce, there's a lot of people with hot sauces out there, but this one is legit and good stuff, so definitely get yourself some of that as well. And that's coming from me. That's not Michael pushing it. I'm telling you, I love the stuff.
Thank you, Eddie.
And, Michael knows
Eddie. Don't
that.
worry,
That's legit.
I got the barbecue sauce coming to you.
The hot barbecue is a surprise, and I've gotten real into the mustard lately because that's good with like a hard pretzel. Dipping some of that. That's good stuff, man. So, listen, buddy, take care. Best to the family, and I'll see you out there on the road somewhere soon.
We'll see everybody out there this summer. Come on to the show, man. We're gonna have some fun.
It's never not fun.
It's never not fun. That's
like Sammy says, are we having any fun yet? Always. All right, buddy. I'll see you.
Okay, take care.
There he goes, the great Michael Anthony, everybody. Always a treat to talk to that guy, and it's wonderful to have him on the show. All right, let's, you know what, Joel? Let's do a quick break here. We'll do a quick reset, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap it up for what's been a super busy edition of Trunk Nation. Coming right back after this.
Play it. On Sirius XM's Faction Talk with host
Eddie Trunk.
The reason I never changed the channel.
And we are back. Joel and I were just talking during the break. It's a crazy run of guests this week alone when you consider yesterday a member of the Police, today Van Halen member, Sex Pistols original member, tomorrow Alice Cooper in the studio. You look at last week, member of the biggest period, one of the biggest periods of Metallica, who's on the Black Album with Jason Newsted, Phil Collins. It's been a crazy, incredible run of iconic guests here in the last few weeks, especially. I thank them all, and if you missed anything, again, it's all on the SiriusXM app to get caught up. And as you can hear, we're grabbing a lot of these interviews when the artist agrees to it on Zoom, so that we can at least share video down the line and video clips. Today, a bunch of clips of Stuart Copeland went up on our social media. And we'll continue to roll those out, and eventually full interviews on YouTube at Eddie Trunk. So just another way to get the content out there to you guys and give you a chance to see some of this stuff that we're doing. Again, based on the artist and if they want to do that or they're cool with it. If they want to just do audio, we do only audio. Alice tomorrow will be audio only, but we'll take your calls for him as well. Alice Cooper should be with us tomorrow for the entire second hour. Hopefully he'll get here even a little earlier. So we'll definitely include your phone calls on that. And I was just thinking, because my party a couple years ago came up with Michael just now. And of course, Michael played that with Sammy and did a couple solo songs and then played with Alice Cooper at my party, which was a big thrill for him because he had never done that. And he always wanted to jam with Alice Cooper. And Michael jammed Schools Out, I think was the song they did together at the party back in December of 2023 already. And yes, I know the video. Yes, we are still going to get it out, I promise you. But great guests, great stuff, and appreciate everybody. And it was really cool to talk to Glen Matlock for the first time as well, having him on earlier. Remember that documentary, I Was a Teenage Sex Pistol. As Glen said, will be rolling out very, very soon on Apple as the streaming platform. And I think it's going to be one of those deals where anybody can watch it through the Apple platform, but there might be like a rental fee. I know that sucks when that happens, but there's all these different ways this information or these, I should say these programs are being distributed and put out. Some of it's built into whatever platform. Some of it, there's like a little bit of an additional fee. So like Glen said, he's not really sure himself, but keep an eye out for that doc. It was real good. So again, Alice Cooper tomorrow. And then Friday will be a free-for-all Friday, but we're going to close the show on Friday going into the holiday weekend with a quick check-in from Richie Kotzen. And then we're going to end Friday and end what's been a hell of a week by premiering a brand new song that Richie has just written and recorded called Catch a Star. So we'll end with a music moment with a brand new song. Richie offered for me to world premiere it, meaning do it before it's released, which it's going to be released on Friday. But that would have been trying to squeeze that in tomorrow around Alice or today around 2 interviews. So I just told him, I said, I appreciate the offer. Put it out Friday as planned, but we'll be like one of the first to tell people about it and play it. But when you hear it and hear Richie talk about it on Friday to close the show, it will be available. So that's how we're going to wrap it up and head into the long holiday weekend, Memorial Weekend already here. And there you go. We'll get some calls in for Alice tomorrow. We'll get some calls in on anything in rock. And again, in case you just joined us, go back, rewind, listen to the show from the beginning. Very, very busy with a lot of news. And of course, like I said, Glen Matlock of the Sex Pistols. And minutes ago, just wrapping up 45 minutes or so with the guy that I always give an answer to. I always give his name as the answer. When people ask me in interviews, who are your favorite people to talk to? That guy who you just heard from, Michael Anthony, is always at the top of that list, along with Sammy Hagar, by the way. And ironically, they're in the same band. But I've said this many times, when you hear Michael and you hear Sammy, that's what you get on stage, off stage, during interviews, not during interviews. Those are the real people, always. And it does not surprise me when you get to know them as well as I have over the decades, that they are great friends and have been playing together and have this bond that goes back to when they first started together in '86 on 5150, because they are very similar in their demeanor and just how they are, the type of people they are. And not coincidental, I don't think, that they have been friends and bandmates for as long as they have, because they're very much cut from the same cloth, and that's a great cloth to be cut from. And for me, as a guy who's become a friend of theirs, but also as an interviewer, I appreciate the hell out of it because they make it so easy. No conditions, no air about it, no bullshit, just great regular people. So another great one from Michael Anthony, who was just, ask me whatever, just great stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you missed anything, go grab it on the app. Keep an eye on all our socials at Eddie Trunk, at Trunk Nation SXM. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody. I mentioned at the top of the show, I did see the Warning last night. I did see some of Youngblood last night, and I'll have more on all of that after the weekend as well when I get to watch a full Youngblood show. But big thumbs up for the Warning, having a chance to finally see them play live last